I think this is a very, very complex, complicated conflict, and which we have to segmentize and take it in separate parts to understand it fully. But I'll try and simplify it. We need not go beyond 1979. It is from 1979 that Iran chose to actually become a virtual enemy and adversary of Israel. Till that time, the relationship was fairly good. It is at that time when the leadership of Iran, the clerical leadership, the clergy at the time decided that they had to take the lead in terms of extolling the virtues and promoting Shia Islam against Sunni Islam, which is essentially the leadership of which is in the hands of Saudi Arabia. And the clergy felt that one of the best ways of showing the support of the Islamic world in this cause would be by supporting the Palestinian issue, which they felt the Arabs had not sufficiently supported the Arabs all these years. So it starts from there a competitive spirit between Iran and Saudi Arabia, which has existed here ideologically, politically, and from a very, very deep military angle. Now, there is no common border between Iran and Israel. So there's no question of a conventional military conflict in which you have ground forces making a foray into enemy territory and things like that. It is purely by three methods. The first of this is by proxies, and proxies means fighting through a second country, a third country, in which is how Lebanon and Syria got involved, because both of them have got a common frontier with Israel, but also have a common frontier with Iran. Lebanon not so much with Iran, but Syria with Iran, which affords the placement of military hardware, personnel, that is human resources, proxy support in a big way through this direction. Iran has chosen proxy warfare as a doctrine to fight Israel. It's also have, and actually even the much of the Arab world. They've done this in with the Houthis in Yemen. They've done it with Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they've chosen to do it through Hamas in Gaza. Although Hamas is not a Shia organization as such, it is more for the purpose of supporting the Arabs. So, with this aspect in mind, whenever the major threats emanate to Israel, or Israel is in a military confrontation, as it is with the Hamas at the moment, it always makes sure that it targets various facilities, resources which are placed in the territories of Lebanon and Syria, to make sure that the Iranian capability does not sort of stabilize in these areas. These areas do not become a part of the military system of Iran. That is the purpose behind it. The IRGC, as you are aware, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, is the one which conducts the proxy warfare and is a very important entity in doing this in Lebanese and in Syrian territory. In Lebanon, it is primarily Hezbollah. Yes, absolutely. You see, so he may be considered as one of the proxy commanders virtually, because he's the one who controlled much of the proxies which are operating from Syrian territory. And for Israel, this was a major achievement: pinpoint targeting, precision guidance of the missile of the aircraft to the spot where the presence of the IRGC leadership was there, and achievement of a bang-on kill at that particular time. Now, Iran is obviously not expected to sit back and accept this. This happened also, if you remember, in the year 2000, or virtually in 2019 and 2020, early part of 2020, when Brigadier General Soleimani was killed by a drone strike by the United States. And thereafter, on 8th of January, Iran struck back with 12 missiles against an US airbase in western Iraq. Although that was a strike, but considered more symbolic, with no casualties at all. It was just shown that as if Iran, to keep its, respect, had carried out this particular attack, and it seemed almost an attack by agreement between the two nations. Now, that is the nature by which people are once again reading this attack of 300 missiles and drones, which has taken place only day before yesterday, once again on Israeli territory. Once the Iranians decided that they will strike, it was a question of how serious would the strike be? Would it be designed to cause mass casualties in Israel or only be symbolic in nature? Now, that is something which is still being determined, because it seems that there was a design, a strategy to ensure the minimization of casualties and damage, and it was done with a initial foray by drones, which are very slow-moving drones, so that the warnings would be apparently given to the Israelis and the others. Those drones could be taken out from the air. Thereafter, the rockets and the missiles would be fired. The Israelis would be alert and would be able to intercept most of them. It seems as if it was designed to make sure that the action was carried out, but the effect would be minimal. Very, very good question indeed. And that's what most of the world is looking at the moment. Is it necessary for Israel to respond? Well, the conjecture is that if Israel does not respond, it may show as if it has been deterred by the Iranian action. That is one aspect of it. The second is Netanyahu, with his propensity to be offensive, to take the offensive to the enemy, etc., if he does not do anything at this time, and in virtue of the fact also that maybe 130 or 140 hostages still exist with the Hamas, Netanyahu's leadership capabilities, his ability to project himself, even if the election takes place in Israel today, would be highly questionable. So from that angle, Netanyahu may be tempted to carry out this action. But from a military standpoint, it is never makes good sense to fight on two different fronts. You see, here there's a serious war going on with the Hamas, where Israel, for the better part of 6 months, has not been able to achieve its military objectives, which in this particular case is also the release of the hostages. Now, if you've not been able to do that, and you have had only peripheral engagements on the northern borders with the Hezbollah, you've carried out some offensive actions in Syria, etc., that is all containment. It's a holding action which is going on. If you now respond, if Israel now responds in a more serious way against Iran, it would probably invite a deeper escalation from the Iranian angle also. Would Israel want to actually be confronting two fronts? One in Gaza, one in with the Hezbollah and the Iranians and the Syrians in the northern front. That is a military decision which has to be taken with care by Israel at this particular moment. Much of the world is advising Netanyahu not to respond. They're saying it's been done, dusted. You carried out the action on the 1st of April. Iran has carried out the action on the 14th of April. It's quits. Now carry on. Let's look at a potential ceasefire in Gaza, because that is the issue on which much of the world is actually stalled at the moment. They want that ceasefire to take place so that the humanitarian aid can go in, the potential of the release of the hostages can take place. All these important aspects in Gaza are being sidetracked because of what is happening in the northern borders. One can't really say that with any degree of confidence at the moment, but what happened on the 1st of April in terms of the strike on the Damascus facility where the Iranian facility was, obviously Iran could not sit back. You see, as I stated in my early part of the intervention also, Iran has to be seen, is virtually in competition with Saudi Arabia and much of the Sunni world to consider itself as the leader of the Islamic world. if this projection and perception is created that their facility, their consulate could be targeted by the Israelis without an adequate response by Iran, it would perhaps send a message that Iran is second best, is not good enough to take leadership of the Islamic world. So what they've done actually is a symbolic action to try and overcome that challenge which they are facing at the moment. You see, for very long, the Islamic world has been divided on this issue. It's not just a Shia world versus the Sunni world. Within the Sunni world itself, there's a deep division. For example, we are all aware of the Abrahamic Accords, which took place, which were essentially designed to bring about the Arab world closer to the Israelis and to the Western world, the Christian world, bringing the three faiths together and isolating Iran well beyond. Now, those Abrahamic Accords came under huge stress by the actions that Israel carried out on the 7th of October in response to what the Hamas had done in terms of the attack on southern Gaza, or through southern Gaza. So it's because of that this division continues to exist. Iran, from one angle, Shia, second angle, Persian, ethnically also different, geopolitically, geostrategically, on the other side of the Persian Gulf, has always remained a separate entity. The Shia crescent, as you're aware, the southern Iraq area, now in fact almost the whole Iraqi territory, Iran, Iraq, much of Azerbaijan to an extent, and some portions of Bahrain. All this is what was known as the emerging Shia crescent. This was an essential part of the Shia-Sunni ideological conflict, which has taken place all these years, translated into a geopolitical effect in terms of the support to Israel or the adversarial relations with Israel.